Well, it looks like everybody's here, you guys. Hi, welcome to a new installment of Right Size Your Life, the virtual series produced by the Southern California News Group in conjunction with the Bay Area News Group. I'm Sam Dunn. I'm the senior editor of premium content here at the Southern California News Group. And before we get started, I want to say thank you to our Reader Reward subscribers for supporting our programs and our publications. We couldn't do anything without you. By the way, if you are a Reader Reward subscriber attending today, you're automatically entered to win a $50 gift card for Amazon. Don't buy more stuff, just buy what you need. And real talk now, if you're not a subscriber, why aren't you a subscriber? Please become a stakeholder in local journalism. If you're in Southern California, go to scng.com/subscribe to find your local paper. And in the Bay Area, go to the bayareanewsgroup.com and join us as a regular reader. A few things to tell you about before we get started. Just a reminder, if you have questions, please use the Q&A feature on your Zoom toolbar there on the bottom of your screen. Questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation, but certainly if you want to make comments or just talk to other people, use the chat feature found on that Zoom toolbar as well. And don't worry, you're not going to miss anything. This session is videotaped and a link will be sent to you so you can share or just revisit some of your favorite moments. It's also posted on our YouTube channel and at scng.com/virtual events. And that's where, of course, you can find all of our past virtual shows, as well as see what's coming up. Now, it is my extreme pleasure to introduce our show's host, Marnie Jameson. Marnie's a syndicated columnist for our news group and read in papers nationwide. She's also a popular speaker and author of several books, including Right Size Today to Create Your Best Life Tomorrow and Downsizing the Family Home. Marnie, welcome. Always a joy to have you here.
Thank you, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's just, some of you I know, you know me through my column. Some of you know me through my books, but I hope I have some new friends today. And, if maybe this is the first time we're meeting. So it's lovely to have everyone here.
I'll
And
let you get started. I'll see you at the back end.
all right, should I get my slides up? Okay. Trying these new technology. All right. So gosh, today we're going to talk about the psychology of order. And that may seem like a weird idea for a design column, but I think that you're going to find a lot of fun ideas. And, again, I was saying, those of you who don't know me, I am not the expert. After 20 years of doing this, I've learned a few things, but I am just the girl next door who's trying to figure out how to live a better, more beautiful life with the usual forces against me, like time and money. And I have to just figure it out as I go. And one difference is I do have access to experts who can see a lot farther than I can, so I can channel their wisdom to you. So that's what I'm doing today, except I'm really distilling it down even more. In the 20 years of writing about living well, I have learned that what really bubbles up as a really, really key principle is the importance of getting your home in order. And when we hear the word order, it's often in the same sentence as organized and simplify, which sounds really non-fun, but we're going to make it fun because it's really, really important to get our homes in order and get it organized and simplified because it's important to our mental health. So I'm not a mental health expert, but you're going to see how it really factors in. Here's one reason. We are all on a brain budget. That means every single day we only get so much psychological spend, so much cognitive spend that is what the psychologists call it. It's mental energy and it's finite. And the more of our mental energy that we spend on acquiring and maintaining stuff and dealing with and looking for stuff we can't find because it's lost in our stuff, of feeling overwhelmed by stuff, the less mental energy we have left in the brain bank for real thinking and creativity and problem solving and the things that we want to apply ourselves toward. Conversely, the more we have under our control, our closets, our pantries, our bed linens, our dishes, our desks, the more mental health energy we have left to deal with what really warrants our attention: relationships, life plans, work. We literally, when we have our home in order, become mentally stronger because we have more left in our brain bank. So some of you know that serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I would say, like, maybe like climate change or the border or the war in Ukraine. We can't control that. The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. In the wisdom to know the courage to change I can, comes getting your house in order. That falls into that category. So it's something you can do, you should do, and I'm going to motivate you to do it, I hope, by the end of this conversation. So I'm going to talk about 3 ways that you can, I have to jump over this slide. Thank you, Sam. These are some of the books you might be aware of. They're all about downsizing, but this is how some of you may know me. But this is my first tip for you today. I know this sounds like, what? This is about psychological order and you're telling me to make my bed. Yes, I am. So I'm going to show you some interesting science that's behind the behavior of making your bed every day. Truly, if you want to be happier, more productive, better at budgeting, more disciplined, and more physically fit, start by making your bed every day. You think I'm kidding? Well, an abundance of research shows that if you make your bed every day, you can dramatically improve your life. For those who think this small task is a big waste of time, you won't once I'm done explaining why this mundane chore sets the foundation for the rest of your day and ultimately your life. So I don't know why, but I have always been a compulsive bed maker. It's one of those few life choices that I swerved into and apparently got right. I have always made my bed first thing, but leaving my bed unmade made me feel rumpled and out of sorts. And if I did have my bed left unmade, maybe because my husband was still in it or something, although I should have probably kicked him out, I would come home, and if the bed were unmade, I would make it again before I got in it, because it's probably a mental disorder, but I really needed to have a nicely made bed before I went to bed. And according to a national poll, just over a third of Americans are kind of with me there. 37% say they always make their bed. That's excellent. After this seminar, that number is gonna go up, I'm promising. But the rest say they sometimes make their bed, or they rarely or never do. So there was a writer, Julie Dutton. She was a non-bed maker until she wrote an article for Psychology Today. And among the findings she uncovered that motivated her to become a habitual bed maker was learning that 71% of those who make their beds consider themselves happy, while 62% of those who don't make their bed admit to being unhappy. Okay, so she also goes on to note bed makers are also more likely to like their jobs, own a home, exercise regularly, and feel well rested. Whereas more non-bed makers hate their jobs, rent apartments, avoid the gym, and wake up tired. She wrote all this, and she finished, all in all, bed makers are happier and more successful. Now, you might wonder, does making your bed make you happier, or do happy people make their beds? It's a bit of a chicken and egg conundrum. And maybe non-bed makers are just slovenly and sad in general. But you'll see in a minute that making their beds could turn that around. Now, as I looked into my little heart and said, what makes me tick that I feel like I am compelled to make my bed every day? And I face that usual argument, well, why bother if you're just going to mess it up again? Like, why fold your underwear, right? Well, I discovered the why bother. I make my bed so I can start every day feeling as I have just a little bit of control of my life. I also want to start my day with the sense that I've already accomplished something. I also want to start my day knowing I've made one corner of the world look a little nicer. And that's all a good start. But don't just take it from me. Here are some experts who share even stronger reasons for making your bed. One, you set off a positive chain reaction for your whole day. Charles Duhigg is the author of The Power of Habit. And he said that making your bed every morning is correlated with better productivity, a greater sense of well-being, and stronger skills at sticking with a budget. How so? He calls making your bed a keystone habit, something that kickstarts a pattern of other good behaviors. And since it happens at the start of the day, it triggers better decisions the whole day long. It's prettier and cleaner. So Karen Sun is founder of Crane and Canopy, a luxury bed and linen, a luxury bed brand. And she reminds us that a bed is a bedroom centerpiece. If it's messy, the whole place looks disorderly, and that seeps into other aspects of your life. If you have low standards for how your bedroom looks, you're likely to keep a low bar elsewhere. It's also cleaner. A bed made and covered up keeps the dust and dirt and pet dander off of the pillows and off of the sheets, so your linens stay fresher and it's more hygienic. You might also sleep better. According to the National Sleep Foundation, those who make their beds are 20% more likely to report that they get a better night's sleep. That may be worth it right there. You will feel happier. In her surveys on what boosts happiness, Gretchen Rubin, who's a best-selling author of The Happiness Project, said the one answer that comes up more than any other is, you guessed it, making the bed. For most people, outer order contributes to inner calm. And if you love a calm environment, making the bed is one of the quickest, easiest steps to cultivate a sense of order. And this is my favorite testament of all to making the bed. In a now famous commencement speech that was initially given at the University of Texas in 2014, Admiral William McRaven, who's a former Navy SEAL and who led the US Special Operations Command that organized the raid on Osama bin Laden, told graduates this: if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task and another and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have had a miserable day and you come home to a bed that is made, that you made, and a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better, then it's all worthwhile. So now do you believe me? Make your bed every day. That's number one. All right. Number two, the second lesson on today's road to psychology order is live better with less. So, you know, I've talked about downsizing. I've written books on downsizing. I'm big on purging and decluttering and letting go. But it's not just about downsizing. It's about order and organizing and intentionalism. So in my 20-year journey as a home design and lifestyle columnist, I wanted to discover the secrets to living well. And I have sought those answers by interviewing hundreds of experts and asking questions of household questions. And I wanted to learn them and share them with you, try them and test them out, and figure out how to live better, more beautifully, more effortlessly, more elegantly, and more affordably. So of the thousands of lessons I've learned, the one lesson that rises as the most consistent is order and simplicity and organization are the backbone of great design. You want a beautiful life, it starts with the fundamental order and simplicity and organization. Then you can have a beautiful home and probably a beautiful life. You cannot have either one without order. So it does remain the simple secret to living well. One way to achieve order is to have less to keep track of. While I have long written about all the merits of downsizing, one person has taken it a giant step further, and that's Joshua Becker, a born-again minimalist blogger and author of several books on minimalism. Joshua Becker's motto is own less, live more. Becker told me, we chatted a few times, and he told me that he hit his tipping point about 15 years ago. He was spending a weekend cleaning out his garage. You know how that goes. You move everything out, sort, toss, reorganize, clean, try to move it back in. It's an awful project. And it took up his whole day. And he was frustrated about how much time it was taking. And at one point, he looked at the mess that was his garage. And then he saw his 5-year-old on a swing set, joyfully swinging away. And the disconnect was glaring, like, what the heck? This kid knows the secret of life. What am I doing with all this stuff? It struck him like a giant storage locker in the head that not only were his things not making him happy, but they were taking him away from what did. Things were taking up his time, his money, and his focus. and taking him away from what mattered to him most, his family, his faith, and his friends. So over the next few years, he and his wife purged about half their belongings. As they transitioned toward a leaner, cleaner lifestyle, he wrote about it. And his takeaway, in addition to own less and live more, which gets back to order and simplicity, is resist society's buy more mentality. Do the opposite, because as you thin out your life, your wallet will get fatter and you will be richer in many other ways as well. So here's another way where order increases your mental health and is better for your psychology. Having less stuff automatically will make your life more orderly. Owning less leads to greater feelings of calm, less stress, and you have to spend less mental and physical energy. Remember that limited amount of mental capital you get every day, storing, looking for, working around your stuff because it's now streamlined. Plus, you'll pay less in real estate to store it all, because that's just nuts. So Becker also left us with this bigger thought. Oops, it's not the right one, but I'll tell you, we don't buy things with money. We buy them with hours from our life. So when you look at something, you have to say, how much of my life is that worth? Not how much money is that worth? That'll put a different spin on things. So how do you get started? I always say start in some place small and easy, like your desk drawer. This, if it's just kind of, it just it doesn't make you feel very productive, let alone valued when your desk looks like, it's been scrambled by a chicken living in it. So if you can get it orderly, that's a great place to start. And then as you look at something and you feel the progress that you're making and you feel better about how that momentum is driving you forward, then you can tackle something bigger and take on that bedroom. This is a friend of mine who has grandkids and she has a grandkids room, and this is what it looked like. We tackled that and it looks a lot better. And you just don't need all the toys, and the kids are so much happier. So start with the easy areas, tackle those, get those, conquer those, and then take on some of the tougher places like overwhelmed bedrooms. And then the other fun tip that Josh Becker offers is, and you might try this, set your alarm for 5 minutes, put a timer on for 5 minutes, and go in your closet and remove 10 pieces of clothing you never wear, never use, you no longer need, and put them in a box for the Goodwill. You can park them in the garage for 3 or 4 weeks, see if you really miss them, and then ship them off. But if you just spend 5 minutes a day on your clothes, you're going to get, or maybe if just 5 minutes a week, you'll get that thinned down and conquer the chaos that is your closet. I'm not saying it's your closet, but it just might be. And then finally, once everything is purged and cleaned and orderly, here's the real secret. You got to keep it that way. This is a lifestyle. I've said this so many times, but it's not a one and done. Downsizing, organizing, living well is a way of life. And once you get those habits, like making your bed and throwing away things that you don't need and regularly purging your clothes or your toys or your books or your paperwork, then that is the habits of order that you can sustain and will keep your life that way. Here's our quote from Josh. We don't buy things with money, we buy them with hours from our life. I think that's good to keep in mind. And the final point I'd like to end with is number 3 is strive toward plain, simple, and useful living. You're going to understand why I have a picture of someone ironing here in just a minute. But again, I have learned from some of the foremost experts on living well and home design. And one of them was an author who's legendary author and designer and now deceased. It was designer Terence Conran. And that would be Sir Terence Conran to us. He was anointed by the Queen. I interviewed him about 4 years ago when he was 88 on the occasion of the new edition of his classic book called Plain, Simple, Useful, The Essence of Conran's Style. He had released this once before and it was a huge seller. And his devoted secretary emailed me a few months later and told me that mine was the last interview he gave and that he really enjoyed it. And I felt really good about that. And I'm glad to continue to get his message out there. Because despite Sir Conran's considerable wealth, he remained deliberately unpretentious, and his home and book reflected a Quaker-like restraint. Now, why? Why would that be? And he would say, objects and surroundings that are plain, simple, and useful are the keys to easy living. And that's really what we're talking about today. He would caution us to suspect the overly ornate, to avoid the complicated and the fussy, and to keep things in an orderly shape so there's no time lost trying to find things or deciding what goes where. Here are some of his takeaways. On kitchens, he would say, an appliance that takes longer to clean and reassemble than it does to operate is more trouble than it's worth. On decorating, he would say, whatever you display should be something you use. On utility areas, hence the ironing, like laundry rooms or broom closets, if they're not scruffy afterthoughts, the daily chores will seem like less of an imposition. On bedrooms, nothing should stand between you and a good night's sleep. No distracting clutter, no overflowing wardrobes, no dust-catching knickknacks, no unmade beds. And concentrate on getting the basics right, the quality of the light and the air and the bed linen that goes next to your skin and the bed itself. Most people crave simplicity, he told me in his final interview. They don't want to live in complex, overly designed homes. Keeping a room tidy and clean and free of clutter is also a free way to make any interior more pleasant. Now, how many of you have heard the words free and interior design in the same sentence? It's so nice. You can have for free a beautiful home just by keeping it tidy and free of clutter. Order is part of living a beautiful and right-sized life. And as you work to add more order to your home by developing good home habits like making your bed, paring back, like learning that living with less is living more, and living more intentionally through practical, useful, simple steps, that I think you're going to find that these tips will help you feel more controlled, more relaxed, more efficient, more productive, and they will help you put large deposits in your brain bank. So make your bed every day, live better with less, and strive toward plain, simple, and useful. Thank you.
Marnie, that was fantastic as always. Short, sweet, simple, and effective, just like what you're talking about. So thank you so much. We actually don't have any questions, but I have a question.
Sure.
If I may, I honestly have learned so much from you and from doing these virtual programs. Honestly, I can't show you my home before and after, but truly it has improved exponentially. But I would love some tips on how to convey this to my son, because though that culture of straightening up just is partly he's 15, I know that, but I know you have kids. How do you talk about this with them?
Well, first of all, modeling is a really great force. And people have this problem with their spouses too. So, yeah, one's a slob, I like separate closets, but you model it and you show them how much better it can be without finger wagging. Now with a son, you have a little bit more say over his choices, but you do need to make it easy for them in organized bins. Like look for the pain points. Is there just not enough room for his shoes? Is his sports equipment outsized for the corner of the garage he's forced to put it in? If you can make a system where his things go in certain places that are labeled bins, really clear, and then also have a purge day. Say, can we help other kids who, you're not playing soccer anymore. Maybe somebody could use your soccer shoes, and let's feel good about handing it down and take him with you when you donate it and showing the families that are there picking things up. So make him part of the purging process, make it easy for him to put things away. And I am not opposed to bribes. Like if you can see the entire floor of his room for 1 week straight, he gets a
He
prize.
gets whatever. I love it. I love it. And speaking of places to put your stuff or places to label things. Lynn Miller has a question for you. Please comment on Tupperware filing for bankruptcy. Do we all have just too much of it? They want
Oh,
this.
yeah. So, and I also saw someone flashing through here, like all those bins in the pantry. You don't need
Yeah.
all those bins in the pantry. And yeah, I agree with you. I have some. Um, and one of the organizational tips is containerize, like get
Uh-huh.
something out of the package and put it in a nicer container. That can be a little tedious. I do have bins, like I will put crackers and snacks and I'll put a
Yeah.
label on it, or I will put canned goods, or I put condiments on bins that I drag out, and the mayonnaise and mustard backups are in those bins. So they're not, I don't have a lot of individual bins for flaxseed or whatever. So that was one point. And what was the other one, the other gal questioned, the one you brought up?
Oh, forgive me, I forgot. That we have another question from an attendee. What can you tell yourself to stop yourself from buying cheap on the markdown clothes from Costco? How can you walk away from a $5 cute top, Marnie? How can you do it?
Well, I know I fall victim to that too. And I just remember the gal's question about Tupperware, but
Oh,
about the
oh,
$5 top. You can go for fast fashion, but know that it's going to have a season, and be willing to let it go after a season. I like investment dressing.
mm.
And I once talked to a woman who she'd been a house cleaner and she was trying to get a job in a professional setting as a secretary. And she said, I'm too poor to buy cheap clothes.
I love that.
She knew she had to save for that good black skirt and that
Right.
good blouse and the good shoes, and not have $5 Costco t-shirts.
Yeah, we've said this before, those shoes and those items that last for years, possibly even decades, that are classic.
Mhm.
We have somebody who says, I love your weekly column, Marnie. Are you finished decorating your condo and are you enjoying it? What
Oh,
we all
that's
know.
not ever finished. I would like to have more time there. We do rent it out, so, and that's a good thing because that's nice to get a little extra income. But it's been going very well, and it does. I grew up on the shores of, not the shores, but in Orange County, Southern
Yeah.
California, very close to the beach. And being at the, even though it's the Atlantic coast, I know, boo hiss, you Californians, but it just takes, it just speaks to me. It just speaks to my youth, and it just really restores me in many, many wonderful ways. So thank you for asking. And yes, I love it there, and I want to get there as soon as I can.
A couple more questions, if you don't mind.
No.
Delane Whitehead says, how do you part with things you think can be useful up the road or have sentimental value? You have talked about this on other shows. Any compressed advice on that one from?
Well, some of it depends on the size. Like if it's, a piano that nobody plays, but it was your grandmother's, that is not, that is taking up bulk. If it's a strand of pearls, then maybe you do hold on to them. If it's a collection, like somebody, I was just talking to a designer who said her aunt had a collection of ceramic cats. And she said they were pretty hideous, but she loved her aunt a lot. So she keeps one, just keeps one on
Yeah.
display. So maybe you can just keep a representative sample. Um, and then the other thing I like to recommend is a trial separation. Maybe you can't get divorced from that particular piece of furniture or heirloom, but you really are on the fence about it. Put it in a box, put it in your garage, put a date on it that you will, do not open until January 1 of 2025, and then go back into that box and see how your feelings have changed or not
Yeah.
about that item, and then you can let it go.
Love it. Love it. One more question. Oh, Frank McCarthy asks, can you see the last page of the presentation again? Frank, you're going to get a recording of this so you can go back over whatever you need. No worries. Cynthia Juvenile, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that name right, Cynthia, says, I am decision adverse, freeze up and feel stuck filing. What do you do when you're stuck with decisions? Do you have a process that you go through that can help get you unstuck when you're trying to make decisions on things?
Yeah, I think it's important to start in a non-emotional place where you're not going to get so torn up, but also that where you can see the impact. A linen closet is a good one. because you don't get that attached to your pillowcases probably, or you know, and you can decide, I like to decide how many sheets do I need for a bed? If you have every bed in my house should have 2 sheets, the sheets on them and the sheets that can go on them.
Right.
And I take my favorites of those two and the rest really can go. So I try to come up with a limit, like how many flower vases do you need? 8, 5, 6, 10. I don't know, pick a number and then get rid of the extras because those have a way of coming in and not going out. So picking a number and sticking with it is a really great way to do it. The trial separation is another way. And then so starting in an unemotional place, and then you see progress, and it's fortifying, and it gives you the courage to go into the next space that's maybe a little more challenging. And then finally you go into what I call the box of feels, which is the memory box that has, the letters from your ex-husband when you went to, some vacation. Anyway, and you're like, oh, what am I going to do with that?
We have a couple more questions. One seems to be an insider question from Jolene Fuentes. Did your days
Oh,
in the sorority house encourage you to live simple?
well, your room motivated me to be very neat after I
Ah,
saw what a mess it was.
clearly
Lots
an
of
old friend.
clothes in that room, Jolene.
We have a question related to those memory pieces you can't quite get rid of. Kids are young adults, but it's hard to get rid of things that are part of their growing up, your school papers, toys, art projects, etc. What do you,
Mm.
I know you've gone through this process yourself. What?
Yeah, so kids art isn't really that special. And I used to hang mine in the garage, and we would drive in and everyone go, ooh, ah, isn't that cute? And then eventually we could let it go. But it can save something, a couple things, just to remember, like one from every grade. Then as they get older, even they'll be embarrassed and they'll throw it out. But it's
Exactly.
way too much. It's way too much. Did I see something about books flashing up too? Like what do I do with my,
You maybe did. There's a lot going on. The chat is blowing up. I can't even follow it. There's so much going on. Um,
she said, how do you get rid of books? I think was the question. Isn't
that's
that
always, as you know, that's my
looking behind you?
perennial
That's why it's
question.
reminding me. Well, of course, you keep my books if you have those.
Of
Just kidding.
course,
But
of
no,
course.
books, here's what's helped me because I love books and I have lots of books. And I have hardcovers stacked up and sitting around. I think books make a room feel very inviting. I think every room should have a book in it. Every room should have something alive, like a plant or a goldfish or some flowers. These are just what make your home feel like a home. But if you think about, magazines are upgraded newspapers. You throw the newspaper out every day after you've read it cover to cover, of course. You throw the newspaper out, no problem. And magazines are glorified newspapers. They're a little harder to throw out, but you can throw them out
Like
after.
like the one that you are in last month. Thank you very much. Our magazine for subscribers. Just have to put that push in. I still have it.
Beautiful. Well, hang on to it until it's time. And a month goes by, then you can discard it. Well, books are glorified magazines. So if you look at a book as just a glorified magazine, which is a glorified newspaper, it's more newsprint, and you can get rid of it. If
Yeah.
Be honest, cross your heart, are you ever going to read it again? Probably not. We don't have enough time to read the books we want to read once, let alone twice. So I think that it's okay to let them go.
Heartless. You're heartless, Marnie. You're
I'm
heartless.
ruthless. Well, no,
One more
I have to
question.
follow my own advice.
I know that I promised to let you go, but Colleen Ocielo, Colleen, forgive me for murdering your last name, ask if we need help organizing and clearing out, where do you find someone you can trust? Because there are a lot of people out there who say that they're organizers. What are some good indicators?
So they changed their acronym, but it's something like NAPO, National Association of Professional Organizers. They have added letters and something else, I can't remember, but in order to be a member of NAPO, they have to have so many hours and they have to pass a certification and a test. So they do know the ethics, and many are very good. And I've used an organizer before, and I think it's really interesting to know that organizers hire organizers because
Oh,
they can't see their blind spots. So chemistry is important, personality is important, but most of them know the rules, and they'll never throw something away without your permission. They won't really push you. They'll just help reframe it. Like I had one, this was a great example. I had this Star dish from Crate and Barrel, which was like $5. It was silver. I used it all the time. Then I had a Lennox dish that was my mother's. It was Lennox bone china with the gold rim. It was probably very expensive, and it was hers. I never used it. And they're sitting there and they do the same job, hold nuts or candy or whatever. And
Sure.
the organizer said, and I explained to her just what I did. She said, so this is the one you use all the time, and you're keeping this one because it was expensive and it was your mother's. And as soon as she said that, I'm like, I can give it away. That was clear. They will be clarifying to you. They will reflect back on you how silly you sound. And I love organizers, and you can find good ones and professional ones through that organization.
That's great. Well, it's just like an editor needs an editor. It's just we can't see the forest through the trees sometimes.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you. You guys, this has been great. I promised you I wouldn't keep you long today, Marnie, but don't worry. She's going to be back. That's all the time we have for today, but thank you for this wonderful series. We've got some more coming up. We hope you've enjoyed today. Look for her columns in our newspapers. And meanwhile, you can register for the next Right Size Your Life next month and all of our upcoming programs, and catch up on what you might have missed by going to scng.com/virtual events. That's where you're going to be able to find Marnie's old shows as well. If you'd like to share your thoughts from today, or if you have additional questions, please email us at events@scng.com, or you can email Marnie directly at marnie@marniejemison.com. Hey, and a final reminder, if you are not a subscriber but want to get in on all of the great entertainment and information we offer, give us a call at 877-469-6133. Thanks again for your support, and please take care of yourself and come back. Bye, everybody.